Hello everyone, welcome to Memory Matters for All Ages. I'm Janelle Nichols. I want to welcome back to the program Catherine Kilpatrick. She is a speech-language pathologist with over 40 years of experience in her field. She is a national speaker. She works with home health care. She works with caregivers. She's the author of over 30 publications. And today is usually the day that we talk about dementia. Today we have Kathy with us, and we're going to talk about an aspect of that, and that is hearing loss. Kathy, the idea of a hearing aid can be touchy.
Right.
Sometimes confrontational. Some people are all for it. Others say no way. Some people, I don't know if it's pride or embarrassment or stubbornness.
Or cost.
Or cost. That's
huge.
Actually a big part of it. But we're talking about something that can change someone's life. Right. If there is a hearing loss. I know that we had someone at our assisted living that it made such a huge difference in their in the activities that they joined in on. Before they had been more withdrawn, wouldn't come to anything, but once they got that hearing aid and got used to it, it changed their social life.
Right. It's such a huge, huge factor. And my mom had a hearing loss, and before the memory loss became obvious, what was really going on is she had the hearing problem, but she was also having trouble processing more complex information. It looked like hearing. And she also wasn't the best candidate. And you mentioned about not everybody has one. She was not a great candidate for it. So the first go around, she did a trial period, which they will allow you to do, and she decided not to keep it.
With a hearing aid.
Correct.
And she didn't.
She didn't. And
like
then 10 years later, when the memory part was coming in, but it was kind of hard to ascertain what was
going on.
She ended up getting them, but not everybody's a good candidate for them. And you know, so we really need to look at this with the dementia population. Never mind aging. You know, I think it's very, very important.
Yeah, and I think that you brought up that it can be something that it's not. In other words, you've got to be able to discern what exactly is going on here. And I think that something humorous is that when we think that someone does have a hearing loss, what's the first thing we do? We start speaking louder and for some weird reason, slower. I don't know why we do that, but that's not always the answer, is it?
Well, the slower is definitely the answer, and louder can help with some folks, especially the ones that don't have a hearing aid.
So we're not too off base with that.
Well, and the thing is, people will often say to me, you know, I wish my minister would speak like you do. Well, first of all, I do adult speak because I'm working with older adults,
You're more
but
aware.
I also have a lower pitch.
You're right, that lower pitch is easier to understand.
Right. But
And
people have a tendency, even on TV, you know, they're talking fast and they're not moving their mouth, and that's why the closed caption is often on. Or pay attention to why someone is not watching TV, because that can be one of the reasons if they don't have the hearing aid.
Because they can't hear.
Right.
So that's a clue.
Absolutely, could be.
All right. Very
could be.
good. Well, tell us some things to think about in detail about this subject.
All right, I'm pulling this off my website because I do have a whole series of blogs and a fabulous article on hearing loss. So I would really call your attention to the elder care blogs on the website, and I'll put a link to that on the current blog for this. The population over 65, approximately 30% of them have a hearing loss, and it reaches to almost 50% after the age of 75. So when you think of someone who's been diagnosed with dementia, that's often an age where we start to see some difficulties that may then advance to Alzheimer's disease. And if we're not paying attention to what's going on there, I mean, it can lead to some significant frustration for folks. There also, I just want to put a little pitch in here for those of you who are watching who are younger, and also try and pay attention to prevention. Music's too loud, we have the earphones on. You know, a lot of the older adults I see now have a hearing loss because of the work environment before we were aware. of what was going on. And you think, okay, well, I don't work in a noisy environment like that, but there are other things. There can be firearms, recreational sports, exposure to different things, some of the toys that kids have, we get that repeated. There's so many levels of noise at a certain decibel level. And so again, there'll be some links to that to just be more aware. And then, I mentioned the fact that not everybody's a candidate for a hearing aid or they can't afford it. And I will give you a link on the blog to a website called Soundbites, Soundbytes. And it has a lot of listening devices, including the ones to use with the television. So that I was just in a home yesterday and I said, we have to turn the TV off. I mean, I could hear it when I was ringing the doorbell, and then I'm trying to do a speech therapy session with someone who doesn't automatically turn the TV off because they just have it on for background noise all the time. But it's like so annoying, and obviously I can't do what I need to do. But that also inhibits conversations with the people that are there. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Lip reading. It can be a great activity. One daughter said, my mom's hard of hearing and I want to do better, so we're going to take a lip reading class together. I just thought that was the neatest idea. If I'd lived in Massachusetts, I probably would have done that with my mom if she was interested. I just thought that was fantastic. And we have to realize that sometimes memory loss may be looking like dementia, when in fact the bigger factor is it's just normal aging and you're not hearing very well.
So it's something that should not be ignored because it could be a simple fix.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk about that in a minute. I was wondering, do you have any tips for selective hearing with a spouse? That's a joke. I'm sorry. I digress. Let's get back to our topic here. But
I can't tell you, if I had $1 for every time I hear that when I ask, and how's your hearing when I'm seeing a patient, and they go, oh, it's selective hearing. And that's an interesting point because someone may have a little bit of a hearing loss, and we will digress a little bit, see how we're doing for time.
Okay.
We're good, okay. And often we don't say the person's name first to get their attention. And they may be off somewhere else in thinking.
With
so
their
you
thoughts.
just go blah, 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 rather than, would you go get me rather than John or honey or whatever.
Yeah.
Know that they are hearing you and acknowledging that.
Yeah.
So anyway.
That's interesting. If there's one thing I've learned from working with you, Kathy, many things, but one thing is don't ignore it. See what it is because it could be a simple fix. And my husband won't mind me telling this. I encouraged him not too long ago to go for a hearing test because I thought something was going on. So it did come back that he's not at any point where he needs any extra help, a hearing aid or anything like that. But the doctor did say it came back, the test, that he has trouble with high pitches and women's voices. Thank you very much. There you go. That tells you what's going on at our house.
Well, as long as he doesn't trade you in for a new model that has a lower voice. That's a whole other.
He won't.
Okay.
I have a low voice, so I'm
there you
safe.
go. You're going to go with that.
I'm safe.
Okay, good.
But I thought that was so interesting. But continue. Give us some other strategies.
Okay, and these are going to be
use.
quick ones because there's so much.
Okay.
I just want to make people more aware, and I totally encourage you to go on the website because it has like a synopsis that'll be helpful. Look at the person when you're talking to them. They may not be lip reading, but it helps them to pay attention. Be distinct in your words. Don't sit there and mumble like this. It's going to be much harder for them to hear you. Grandparents complain about their grandchildren. They're not facing them. They're talking too fast. One gentleman the other day went, yeah, my granddaughter talks like this all the time. And I can't understand a word she's saying, and they don't want to be embarrassed, so they don't say anything. Look what we're missing out on, folks. I talk about, when we talk sometimes it's all one big long word. We need to talk to a hard of hearing person like we're going up the rungs of a ladder. Each word gets its own little space. Write it down for them, and make sure that it's legible. Okay, that the print is large enough. Get rid of the background noise. The TV needs to go off, the conversation. Sometimes it's a fan in the summertime because that background noise can be a disturbance. Change the message on your answering machine. Please leave your name and phone number. If you're comfortable, and I've had 2 businessmen who have done this, I have a hearing loss, so please speak slowly.
That's
And
a
I
great
thought,
idea. Sure.
Good for them. Okay.
Sure.
We talked about high pitch is harder, so if you have a higher pitch, try and lower it. Someone will say, well, Dad understands you, but he doesn't understand me. Well, the lower pitch as opposed to the higher one. And then sounds with S, or words with S, Z, SH, CH, TH, F, and V are ones that are harder.
That's interesting.
Okay.
That's very interesting. I think you're talking about a quality of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes it can be a simple fix, but it's better to try and find something rather than ignore it.
Right.
Right? What about the hard of hearing person as far as verification and you know,
Right.
to make a family member or a work associate understand that what you just did has helped me.
Right. I think
like
that it's a
slower
team approach.
Okay.
And I know we have to kind of wrap it up because we kind of gave a lot of information here, so I want to make sure that we get some of that in. Thank the person for speaking so well. And, you know, if you can't understand them, you know, speak up and see if you can come to some agreement of some things that may be helpful. Because this is our quality of life, and what happens is if we're not hearing well, then we tend to withdraw.
Right.
Then we don't get the cognitive stimulation. So I gave you a quote this time.
I did, and I love this. This is from Helen Keller. She says, blindness separates us from things. Deafness separates us from people. And I thought that was just so insightful.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just excellent. People shouldn't be shy about going to the doctor.
Nope.
Getting a test is simple, isn't it?
Right.
It's very simple,
Right.
painless.
Right.
All right.
And at least you learn what the scoop is, like your husband did.
Absolutely.
And a part
now
of
we know.
aging, often the higher pitches, you know, break off there and are more of a problem. So to do this week, approach a hard of hearing person and say, what can I do? Or let me know if you're not understanding me. Encourage them to ask you to verify the information and tell them that you would rather they do that. Because a hard of hearing person hears some words, some fall in a hole, and so they're trying to figure it out, and you've moved on to the next topic.
Right,
So,
right. Very good,
okay.
very good. I do want to remind everyone to watch at the end of the program, and you'll see Kathy's website there. Get that information. She also has a link to her blogs where she talks extensively and in more detail
A lot of
about
information.
what we talked
Right.
about today. So please go there and watch that at the end. Kathy, as usual, do you have a quote for us to send us on our way?
We had two today because I couldn't
did,
make up
but they
my
were
mind.
good. They were good
Okay.
ones.
When someone in the family has a hearing loss, the entire family has a hearing loss. And that's by Mark Ross, PhD.
Very, very insightful. All right, Kathy, as usual, I love your information because it's so practical. You give us things that we can take with us, and I hope you learned some things today. This concludes our 8-part series on dementia.
Right.
And join us next week. We'll be talking about
That's our last
that's
one.
be our last program. I hope you'll all join us. And go to that website. Great information on there. Now, go and make it a great day.